Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 20. Na jayate briyate vakada chid nayam bhutva bhavita vanabhuya ajoniyata sasvato yam purano nanyate anyamane sharire. Translation, word for word. Sorry, I'm just going to close this a minute. Na, never. Jayate, takes birth. Priyate, dies. Va, either. Kadachit, at any time. Past, present, or future. Na, never. Ayam, this. Bhutva, having come into being. Bhavita, will come to be. Va, or. Na, not. Puyaha, or is again coming to be. Ajaha, unborn. Nityaha, eternal. Shashvataha, permanent. Ayam, this. Puranaha, the oldest. Na, never. Anyate is killed. Anyamane, being skilled. Sharire, the body. Translation, for the soul there is neither birth nor death. At any time, he has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Qualitatively, the small atomic fragmental part of the Supreme Spirit is one with the Supreme. He undergoes no changes like the body. Sometimes the soul is called a steady or kutastha. The body is subject to 6 kinds of transformations. It takes its birth from the womb of the mother's body, remains for some time, grows, produces some effects, gradually dwindles, and at last vanishes into oblivion. The soul, however, does not go through such changes. The soul is not born, but because it takes on a material body, the body takes its birth. The soul does not take birth there, and the soul does not die. And the thing which has birth also has death. And because the soul has no birth, he therefore has no past, present, or future. He is eternal, ever existing, and primeval. That is, there is no trace in history of his coming into being. Under the impression of the body, we seek the history of birth, etc., of the soul. The soul does not at any time become old, as the body does. The so-called old man therefore feels himself to be in the same spirit as in the childhood or youth. The changes of the body does not affect the soul. The soul does not deteriorate like a tree, nor anything material. The soul has no byproduct either. The byproducts of the body, namely children, are also different, individual souls. And owing to the body, they appear as children of a particular man. The body develops because of the soul's presence, but the soul has neither offshoots nor change. Therefore, the soul is free from the 6 changes of the body. The Katha Upanishad 1, 2, 18, we also find a similar passage which reads, Na jayate mriyate va vipaschin, nayam kataschin na bhuva kaschid, ajo nityaha shashvito yam purano, na hanyate hanyamane sharire. The meaning and purport of this verse is the same as in the Bhagavad Gita, but here in this verse there is one special word, vipaschid, which means learned or with knowledge. The soul is full of knowledge, or full always with consciousness. Therefore, consciousness is the symptom of the soul. Even if one does not find the soul within the heart where he is situated, one can still understand that the presence of the soul simply by the presence of consciousness. Sometimes we do not find the sun in the sky owing to clouds or for some other reason, but the light of the sun is always there, and we are convinced that it is therefore daytime. As soon as there is little light in the sky in the morning, we can understand that the sun is in the sky. Similarly, since there is some consciousness in all our bodies, whether man or animal, we can understand the presence of the soul. This consciousness of the soul is, however, different from the consciousness of the Supreme, because the Supreme Consciousness is all knowledge, past, present, and future. The consciousness of the individual soul is prone to be forgetful. One is forgetful of his real nature, obtains education and enlightenment for the superior lessons of Krishna. But Krishna is not like the forgetful soul. If so, Krishna teachings or Bhagavad Gita would be useless. There are two kinds of souls, namely the minute particle soul, Dano Atma, and the super soul, Vibhu Atma. This is also confirmed in the Katha Upanishad. In this way, Anno Aniya Mahato Mahiyan Atmasya Janto Nihito Guyam Tamakratu Pashati Vita Shoko Tadatu Prasadan Mahi Mahanam Atmanaha. Both the super soul, Paramatma, and the atomic soul, Jivatma, are situated in the same tree of the body, within the same heart of the living being. And only one who has come free from all material desires, as well as limitations, can by the grace of Supreme understand the glories of the soul. Krishna is the fountainhead of the Supersoul. Also, as it will be disclosed in the following chapters, and Arjuna is the atomic soul, forgetful of his real nature, therefore he requires to be enlightened by Krishna or by his bona fide representative, the spiritual master. So the translation once again for chapter 2, verse 20. For the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. It is not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. So I'm just going to recite the invocation prayers. By all means, everyone can join in if you want to. Om Jnana Timrandasya Jnana Shalakaya Chaksharamantam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shiguru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shigurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Tam Vitam Sa Jivam Sadvaitam Sarvadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shivishikavitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vishabhana Sate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaiva cha Patitana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shimate Bhakti Charu Swami Iti Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devam Gauravani Pujayane Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pashata Desatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you everyone so much for joining in with this chapter day on chapter 20 verse 20 of the Bhagavad Gita. Kindly seeking prayers and permission from my spiritual master and grand spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada and Bhakti Swami, and the blessings of all the devotees who are listening to this class. Please forgive me for any mistakes that I may make during the course of this class. So we understand that the soul, which is neither born nor is there death to the soul itself, and is always residing, or rather it's covered by a body, the material body itself. And as long as the soul is there, the body is always alive because of the nature of the soul. The symptom of the soul is consciousness. So anything that has consciousness, whether it's a tree, plant, animal, small insect, human being, anything, if it has consciousness, then we understand that it has the significance of the soul within that body itself. Now, sometimes when we talk about religion, we also get confused that religion is just basically ritual activities, understanding your daily duties, performing pious activities. But also the importance about religion is also a science. And then when Srila Prabhupada said that Krishna consciousness is actually a science, many people misunderstood him, thinking that, it's like a science class, as we study at school. But it isn't. The science is actually understanding the soul. What is the soul? What is the significance of the soul? What is the qualities of the soul? And that is all explained in chapter 2 about the qualities of the soul itself. We understand when the wonderful young girls, unfortunately, they didn't hear me because my microphone was on mute, even though it said unmute on the screen. They spoke, recited the verses so nicely. So thank you very much, Bhavanishi and Garnishi, I think it is. Thank you. So it actually explains that the soul, for the soul there is never birth nor death. It's indestructible. It cannot be slain by any weapons, or burned by fire, or withered by the wind, or moistened by any kind of weather itself. That which pervades the entire body, you should know it to be indestructible. So Krishna is explaining to Arjuna exactly what is the soul and why he should not lament. But at the same time, Arjuna is thinking, I don't understand, why is these feelings of fearfulness is coming and upsetting him from wanting to fight his cousins, his uncles, his spiritual masters. But Krishna is trying to teach him that, it is your duty, it's your dharma to fight religion itself. But then we understand what is the soul itself, and we understand that it's a part and parcel of Krishna himself. So Krishna has unlimited qualities, of 6 which are very popular that we all understand. Does anybody know the 6 qualities of Krishna that we always refer to?
Beautiful.
Yeah, sorry, just speak a little louder. Okay,
Beauty, wealth,
yeah,
Fame.
Strength,
fame,
Renounce.
renunciation,
yeah, that's very good. So there's 6 qualities: strength, fame, beauty, opulence, renunciation, and wisdom. So although Krishna is unlimited in any qualities, in fact, it says that if you are able to count the number of dust particles on this planet, or even in the atoms in the universe, that actually describes the number of qualities that Krishna has. So it's practically unlimited. Because God is unlimited, he would have unlimited qualities. But of the 6 opulent qualities he has, or the main qualities that we refer to as Bhagavan, who has the full strength, full opulence, wealth, renunciation, wisdom, etc., we understand that he has the qualification of being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. But also the Jivatma has a minor level of qualities as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So although Krishna is the Supreme, his qualities are unlimited, we have the same qualities as Krishna. We may have a level of fame, we may have a level of strength, beauty, renunciation, wisdom, wealth. But at the same time, that level of qualities is very limited as well. So you may be very beautiful this year, but next year somebody else may be beautiful. Or you may have all the wealth in the world this year. In a few years' time, somebody else could be more beautiful. So because of our nature, because we're conditioned, we don't have the unlimited qualities as Krishna. Those qualities are sometimes explained in also the Bhagavad Gita. It's like when you see gold, gold is pure by nature, but when you take a particle of that gold, it's also considered to be as pure as the main particle of gold, but it's on a minute level. So similarly, although Supreme Personality of Godhead is unlimited in its qualifications and its attributes, the Jivatma is very limited in his ability or his attributes itself. But it actually says that our original constitutional position is completely eternal, full of knowledge and bliss, which is the same as Krishna itself. And when we have that purity level, our qualities are similar to Krishna as well. And it's said in the Bhagavatam that we can have almost 2/3 of the quality of Krishna if we were to be on that original pure status. And that is very hard to believe, because if you think about this whole cosmic universe, it's only a fragmental part of the mature energy. So can you imagine if we did go back to Godhead to be with in the Goloka Vrindavan Dham, to eternally reside with Krishna, the qualities we would have would be almost like 2/3 of the qualities of Krishna himself. But of course, our knowledge at that time would actually think of ourselves to be superior or as powerful as Krishna. We would be still considered to be just friends of Krishna or servants of Krishna, just completely surrendered unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. So I mentioned earlier on, or in the verse itself, it mentions about the symptom of the soul is consciousness. But when we see somebody die, we're also very much attached to that person who's died. I know in the last couple of years, we've had so many sad losses, wonderful spiritual leaders, wonderful perhaps relatives, even my own family member has passed away. But we have a nature of attachment to that particular person. Now, although we understand from Krishna's point of view that the body is material and it dies at the time of death, whereas the soul continues to have another body at the time of death, depending on his karma, pious activities or impious activities. But still, we have an attachment for that particular person who's passed away. Say, for instance, it could be our mother, it could be our father, it could be brother, sister, daughter, or son. And we cannot, you know, ignore the fact that, okay, the soul is eternal and it's going to get another body depending on that person's nature. But still, we have that attachment. We have developed attachment to that person's character, the way he looks, the way he talks, the way he, you know, uh, interacts with one another. That particular soul has a character in the form of a body. So it is actually mentioned that the soul takes on a portion of the character of a person itself. Although pure by nature, the mature covering of the person, the character, whether it's a father or mother, is also imbued to a certain level into the soul itself, the Jivatma. And that is also said even in the spiritual world. When you see the particular personalities in the spiritual world, whether it's Lord Brahma, Lord Indra, or any of the demigods, Agni Dev, Varuna, they all have a particular type of character, personality, depending on their mode as well. So the soul actually takes a particular quality of that particular person as well. So even though by nature, when we go to the material world, we want to be completely developed in full attitude of surrender to the devotees towards Krishna. So that is that nature that you will acquire when you go to the spiritual world as well. You have a form of trait that you imbibe on that soul as well. But the fact is that when you go to the spiritual world, you would not be able to remember anything from the material world. The reason being is because if you did, then you would start lamenting, I want to go back to the material world, like Gopal Kumar did. He wanted to find out what was beyond this spiritual world. He wanted to see what was in the material world. So Krishna was telling him, you shouldn't go. It's full of material miseries, full of anxiety. There's never happiness. There's always dukkha there. But still he wanted to see for himself. And it was also a journey in our own lives that we have to progress through this material world, through the hellish planets, to the material world, to the heavenly planets, depending on what mode of nature we're in, whether in the mode of ignorance, passion, or goodness, which we want to be in the pure mode of goodness. So we can actually say, stay fully focused in Krishna consciousness, be fully surrendered unto Krishna, following all the rules and regulations of being completely surrendered and focused. And that is the purpose of life itself, to free yourself from the material world. But at the same time, you may think, well, Krishna's given this material world, he's given this body, he's given us free will. You know, Why is it so important? Why we should surrender to God? Why should we believe in God? He's given us this privilege. Why should we not enjoy our life? I'm happy making money. I'm happy, you know, having mature activities. I'm happy drinking. I'm happy smoking because that's what makes me happy. But why is Krishna allowing us to say, no, please abandon all the varieties of religion, abandon all mature activities, just surrender to me? Does anybody want to answer that question? Why does Krishna want you to surrender unto him when he gives you this free will?
So we can go back to Krishna.
Yes, that's good, Kandaben. Would you like to elaborate a little bit more? Why does he want us to go back to the spiritual world, Kandaben?
Because in the beginning we were there with Krishna, but
Yes,
we wanted to come down, to have our free will, independence. But
yeah,
now we are suffering here, so Krishna wants us to go back to Godhead, to
that,
spiritual world.
yeah, that's very good, Kandaben. Thank you very much for that. Yes, so as you can see, Krishna actually says in one of the verses, which we read earlier on, you know, for for one who's taken birth, death is certain. And after death, is sure to die again, sure to take birth again. So there is a cycle of 8,400,000 species of life. We may not remember everything in our previous lives. It's like Krishna says to Arjuna, many, many births both you and I have passed. I remember all of them, but you do not, O subdue of the enemy. He's telling Arjuna that although Krishna is unborn and limited, there's no beginning for him and no end. But for the Jivatma, there's always a previous life that we've had, going from many, many lifetimes, since, I mean, of course, as you know, the cycle of the four yugas, we have the four cycles. Um, we have Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga. At the end of that cycle, it restarts again with Satya Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga, and the cycle goes on and on. And that 1,000 of those yugas is considered to be one day of Lord Brahma. And equally, 1,000 of those yuga is considered to be one night of Brahma. And Brahma lives for 100 years. So at the end of the Lord Brahma's lifetime, it's a complete devastation of the whole cosmic manifestation. So if you can imagine, we've been going through this cycle of birth and death, yuga after yuga after yuga. So right now, we may be in a fortunate situation where we may be a king, we may be a prince, we may be something very wealthy, someone very healthy, we're surrounded by opulent people, aristocratic people. We may be beautiful, but who knows? In our next lifetime, because we've used our past credit, we may start from the beginning again, starting from an insignificant insect, working our way through the different consciousness level of the animal species of life, different species of plants, animals, birds, trees, and then eventually we get this rare form of human life. And this rare form of human life distinguishes us from human life because we have a high level of consciousness. From that high level of consciousness, we can decide what's right and what's wrong. Just like at school, just like your parents teach you or train you up from a young age, they tell you what is righteous and what should be avoided in your life to avoid sinful reactions or to avoid punishment as well. So the important thing is that right now we may be suffering and we're actually always constantly in anxiety, full of fear, full of distress, and that's the reason why Krishna is saying, please, if you want to free yourself from this material activities, free yourself from this difficulties that you're facing. So there is four types of people or miscreants that do not believe in God. And there's also, Krishna explains there's four types of pious people who want to believe in God as well. I'll just quickly recite those verses to you, or share the screen to you. Okay, this is from chapter 7, text 15. This particular verse is describing the non-believers, 4 types of non-believers of God. Namam duskritino mudaha prapadyante naradamaha maya pahrita jnana asuram bhavamashvita. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, or monks who are lowest amongst mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. So here Krishna describes 4 people who do not surrender unto him. The first one is the Muda, or the grossly foolish people. In this particular example, he refers to the beasts of burden. Sometimes we can be working very hard like a donkey just for a piece of carrot dangling in front of us. And that's what a Muda person is. They're just completely oblivious to everything around them. They get a beating from their master and they just want that piece of carrot just to satisfy themselves. So those who are grossly foolish do not want to believe in Krishna or God because they're just completely ignorant and oblivious of everything around them and understanding the highest form of truth. The next type of person is the Naradama. Nara means human, and Dhamma means, of course, referring to the consciousness or Dharma. These are the lowest among mankind. These are referred to as sometimes human beings. They're considered to be in a situation where we're actually uh, ignorant. We may have consciousness, high level of consciousness, but we do not take Krishna consciousness seriously. We're sort of, as I mentioned earlier on, we may be happy and living in the life as we are living because we feel we're very comfortable, even though it's temporary at the same time. So it's important that we try and avoid that situation where we're thinking that, everything that we've provided is due to our own doing, but actually nothing is due to our own doing. Everything is provided by the will of providence, by the will of God. The next type of atheist people or non-believers is Maya Pahirita. These are the scientists, philosophers, those who speculate about the evolution of science, the evolution of mankind, that everything was created through a big atomic bomb. They don't believe in the creation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead itself. These are like people who are completely atheistic people as well. And the final one is the Asuras. These are, of course, the demonic believers. In this world, unfortunately, we have so many demonic rulers who want to attack other innocent countries just for the sake of taking over leadership of that particular country, all in this, sometimes even fighting in the name of religion as well. And that's why many people don't believe in religion, because they feel this is the cause of war, this is the cause of hatred, cause of, you know, differences between opinions between one humankind and another human mankind. But actually, a lot of it's misinterpreted in their own ways to benefit their own uh, personal reasons, rather than the beliefs of what is actually written in the books of the Shastras itself. So it's more for personal desires, more for personal greed, envy, lust, etc. So we've got to try to avoid these kind of 4 miscreants who actually don't want to believe in Krishna or God himself. And then text 16 talks about the 4 types of people who believe in God. That particular verse reads, Chaturvida bhajante maham janaha skritano arjuna ato yikyasu adhati gyani gyani cha bharata shaba. Based among the Bharatas, 4 kinds of men begin to render devotional service unto me. The distressed, sorry, just going to move this down so I can see the distressed, yep. Desire of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the absolute. So we're all going through a distressful situation at one time in our life or another. We may have lost something, we may have lost a family member, something distressful, lost our job or something. And many times we turn to God and we ask him to please help us, to guide us, to help us overcome our difficulties that we're facing, the challenges that we're facing. Sometimes we want to pray to God because we want opulence, we want desiring of wealth, we want to become powerful, famous. And Krishna provides that if he wants to, because if you pray to Krishna, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He fulfills your desires. Of course, that's not why we want to pray to God at all, because these are mature activities. Sometimes we become inquisitive. We just want to find out, who is God? Why are we born? How do I find out more about the higher truth? And then, of course, the final one is the searching for knowledge of the absolute truth. Those are sometimes known as jnanis. They want to learn about religion, learn about God to a high level to understand who God is, so he can differentiate from material activities and spiritual activities. But of course, beyond that, knowledge of the absolute is those who are completely surrendered under Krishna, pure devotional service, pure bhakti. And those are the ones who are completely dedicated their lives serving Krishna. They're not interested in religion, they're not interested in wealth, they're not interested in their distressful situation. They just love Krishna so much. The examples of that are the gopis, who are the highest type of devotees, who actually have no desire, personal desire for themselves. They just want to serve Krishna. And that is I suppose, the position most people want to get to. But of course, most of us go through that difficult situation. Even as devotees, we do go through distressful situation. Sometimes we may cut ourselves in an accident, but also Krishna is so merciful that he's actually mitigated that suffering that you may have incurred. So, for instance, if you cut your finger, Srila Prabhupada explains in one of the purpose, Krishna may have mitigated that because in your previous life, you may have committed a heinous crime, perhaps killed somebody in your previous life, but now you've taken up this devotional service, so it's mitigated a lot of the difficulties that you're facing. So sometimes we actually see these difficulties and we think, why is Krishna always making us suffer in this difficult situation? Even though we're trying to pray and practice Krishna consciousness every day. I'm chanting my rounds, following the four regulator principles, I'm trying to serve, I'm trying to be nice. Why is difficulties happening again and again? Sometimes Prabhupada also mentioned that Krishna consciousness is not a form of utopia as well, where you want to pray to God, where he removes all your difficulties, all your stressful situation. I wish it could be nice, but sometimes that difficulties arises because it's a token reminder of this material world. What are the sufferings that we're all facing? We can see recently all the difficulties that we're facing over the year. But now, because we've become so accustomed to seeing this, we're slowly letting our guards down. We have to be really careful that, we've prayed so hard to Krishna, please protect us from these difficulties, the viruses, the situation of repeated birth and death. I do not want to go back to this material world. If you read the Bhagavatam, it explains how the baby in the womb is suffering for 9 months, being bitten by all the different kind of living entities within inside the womb, and is constantly remembering its past life, all the suffering it has committed, and is praying to Krishna. Krishna, I will remember you. I will remember you. But unfortunately, because we're conditioned in this material world, because of our previous life, we go back to our normal habits. Because as a child, we don't understand anything. So that's why we need the guidance of the spiritual master. So hence, in that particular verse of chapter 2, verse 20, Prabhupada mentions that Krishna is acting as spiritual master and Arjuna is acting as a disciple. So it's important that we actually accept the spiritual master to guide us, to associate with the devotees on a regular basis as well. Then that allows us to overcome any difficulties to help us on our journey in Krishna consciousness as well. Let's see if this is the so earlier on I was mentioning about the cycle of birth and death. As you know, there's 8,400,000 species of life. And of those 400,000 species of life are the human beings. But even within the human beings, there's obviously different sort of level of human consciousness as well. You've got the lower levels, from the lower planetary system, you have the middle class who are the earthly, living on the earthly planets. You have the high class types of beings which are living on the heavenly planets as well. But there's still subject to birth and death as well. So it's important. But this particular verse also talks about the differences between the soul and the super soul. So you've got to understand the soul is always there within your heart. It's actually acting as a witness, seeing every thought of action that we're actually doing. By the nature of the soul, we have the ability to feel, when you have emotions, even when you're suffering as well, when there's happiness. It is actually the soul that actually feels that happiness and distress as well. We have the feeling of, or the ability to have thoughts of uh, willing as well. So we may be having a desired thinking, willing feeling. That all that stems from the soul itself, because without the soul, the body is just a lump of chemicals itself. It doesn't have any source of life at all. So once the soul leaves the body itself, then unfortunately that's when the end of the body, it perishes away. So now, even in modern scientific theories as well, a lot of are coming to the conclusion that the soul carries on after death. It's not like just disappears into oblivion, because many people have actually observed this out of death experiences. Scientific research has shown that people have come into a point where they're almost dying. The subtle body, of course, is not part of the soul. The subtle body is made up of the intelligence, the mind, and ego, whereas the body, the material body, is made of the five elements, earthly elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And the three elements, the mind, intelligence, and ego, consist of the subtle body. And of course, the soul, which is pure by nature, eternal, full of knowledge and bliss, is part and parcel of God. But and then out of death of experience, the subtle body comes out the body and sees exactly, seeing the body on the deathbed, and remembers exactly, or sees in front of him exactly what's going on. But somehow, by the intervention of some providence, it comes back into the body and revives its consciousness and understands that, oh, this is my life. And if you look on it, or so research on it, many devotees have actually gone through that situation as well, and they've actually seen good omen in front of them. But fortunately, they've actually come back to their senses and have decided, no, I'm going to take my Krishna consciousness very seriously. Let me focus myself 100% on Krishna consciousness. I may have drifted away. Krishna's given me a token reminder. So it's so important to always remember that Krishna is witnessing whatever moves that we're doing, whatever actions that we have, whatever thoughts that we have in our mind, whether it's good or bad, that is actually recorded within soul. And at the time of death, we've gone in front of Lord Yamaraj, and he sees exactly all the pious and impious activities that we do. Of course, as devotees, we try and not think so much about death, but actually this important rare form of human life. Every second is so valuable. As Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, like a moment, feels like 16 years, in separation of Krishna. And that's what we should be feeling of separations of Krishna. Krishna, when will I come back to see you personally? When can I serve you personally? When can I serve your devotees? When can I serve the gopis? So it's important to always feel in the mood of separation of Krishna all the time. So I hope I've been able to sort of expand on the purport of Srila Prabhupada. Of course, Srila Prabhupada's purport is amazing, and there's so much information you can take from it. And I just hope I've been able to give a little insight, more details into the soul itself. And that particular verse, I'll read it again to you. Najayate mriyate vakada chin nayam bhutva bhavita vanabuya ajoniyata shashvato yamparano nanyate anyamane sharire. For the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. It's not slain when the body is slain. So once again, we mentioned that the soul is indestructible. It cannot be withered by the wind, moistened by any weather. It cannot be burnt by fire. At the time of death, he continues his journey in this life, accepting another body. So it's so important to remember that the soul is forever existent, eternal, and never dies at all. So I just open up to anybody if they've got any comments or questions or any other points they would like to add on. Please do so. Yeah, if you want to unmute yourself. Jolie, you're not on the call today. You normally have a nice comments or questions to ask. Okay. So we have some good news today as well. We just had the delivery of the new Srimad Bhagavatam sets at Bhaktivedanta Manor. These are the new sets, Srimad Bhagavatam sets, printed in Germany. And if you haven't got a copy already or have sponsored a set already, please do get in touch with the devotees heading these Srimad Bhagavatam Bhadra campaign, so we can give the order to you directly, post it to you, or have them picked up from Bhaktivedanta Manor or myself or Nirmal Prabhu. So please do get in touch with us. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening in, and please forgive me for any mistakes. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya vacha patitana pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Thank you very
Hare
much.
Krishna, Prabhuji, sorry, I couldn't, I was muted.
Oh, sorry.
But your
Sorry.
class was so delightful. I didn't, well, I was immersed in what you had to say. There was no question because of that.
Oh, thank you. I'm sure. I wish by Krishna's mercy and the mercy of the devotees listening, please bless me that I could continue.
Yeah, we bless you,
Classes.
Prabhuji. You're wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Jolie. Nice to hear from you.
Thank
Yes, Prabhuji, it was a wonderful class. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
I was
Vaishnavi.
engrossed in it too.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
you,
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
you. Thank
Prabhuji.
you so much.
Thank you very much. I'm on my phone today, Prabhuji. I couldn't get to the computer. So yeah, get through there. So that's probably why I'm
Okay.
used to this.
No
Gotcha.
worry. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much as well.
Hari
Yeah.
Bol. Have a nice
Krishna.
weekend. And see you
Haribol.
next week, probably. Yes.
Yes,
Hari
definitely.
Bol. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Prabhu.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
everybody, for your association.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, everybody.
Krishna,
Thank you,
everybody.
Prabhuji.
Bye.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.